What's up guys, Lon here from Android Authority, and welcome back to another episode of Camera 360, where we attempt to break down a smartphone camera in 3 minutes, give or take. Now our goal on this show is to highlight some of the most important aspects of a smartphone camera that we think you should know, and we try to do it in a very short and sweet fashion. Now if you guys are interested in a more in-depth analysis, you can always check out the written version of our review, which will always be linked in the description below. With all of that out of the way, let's get into today's episode with the Asus Zenfone 6. So one of the most unique things about the Zenfone 6 is its motorized flip camera mechanism, which allows it to use one set of cameras for both front and rear facing photos, removing the need for a dedicated front camera, which is pretty awesome. The primary camera is the very popular 48 megapixel Sony IMX, and it's paired with a 13 megapixel ultra wide camera. The camera software is not all too different from other smartphone camera apps. The camera shutter button is at the bottom, flanked by the image preview and camera rotation button. Switching between the various different modes can be done simply by swiping left or right across the viewfinder. One of the Zenfone 6's most unique modes is the motion tracking feature, which locks onto a subject and leverages the motorized mechanism to follow the subject. As most smartphones cameras tend to do, the Zenfone 6 performs pretty well in daylight conditions. Skies exhibit an attractive blue hue and images come out looking very natural and lifelike. There is some sharpening going on in post, but you'll only really notice it when you zoom in and pixel peep. The camera also does well with color reproduction. They're vibrant enough that images don't look washed out, but far from appearing oversaturated. The Zenfone 6 definitely treads more on realistic color tones. The main sensor has no problems at all with capturing tons of detail. Subjects appear nice and crisp, but so does the surrounding background. Zoom into this photo of the grassy bank overlooking the sea, and you can make out every single blade of grass, and even the details in this bench that's pretty far away are still easily visible. Landscape shots look great, especially with the wide-angle lens. There's a tiny bit of distortion at the far corners of the frame, but nothing that distracts from the overall picture. Dynamic range and color reproduction are also quite good on this lens, and it never struggled much with exposure or white balance. Portrait mode on the Zenfone 6 is about average. Most of the time it does a decent job with separating the subject from the background and creating a convincing look, but it doesn't always do a perfect job with edge detection and sometimes blurs out parts that should still be in focus. Low-light photos from the Zenfone 6 aren't spectacular, but they look fine. The night mode does a solid job of lifting shadows and taming highlights, but images do have a distinct softness to them and they look slightly overprocessed. Now because of the flip mechanism, your rear cameras are also your front-facing cameras, so you're not losing any quality here, which is great. You can pull off some shots with natural bokeh, and wide angle is extremely useful for group photos or just fitting more scenery into the frame to really give people a better sense of your surroundings. The wide angle lens does make your arms look a little lanky, but it's a small price to pay. The Zenfone 6 is capable of recording 4K video at 60 FPS from the main sensor, and it produces good results. The video is smooth and the camera is quick to react to changes in exposure and quick to find focus. Considering the fact that the camera flips around, it's pretty great for vlogging purposes. Overall, we gave the Asus Zenfone 6 a score of 7.2. It works great in most conditions, and having a primary camera paired with a secondary wide-angle lens makes this an extremely versatile setup for photo and video, especially when you factor in the flip mechanism. If you want a more detailed breakdown of the score and the Zenfone 6's camera, make sure to check out the written review linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of Camera 360.